And welcome back to the College Tailgaters. You're joined once again with Chris America, and coming to you from now warm, or warmer, Illinois, Mr. Sean Daly. How's it going over there, buddy?
Chris, it's going great over here. And like you said, a little warmer, but I guess that's a relative term as we hit the high 40s today. But yeah, I'm Sean Daly. You can find me on Twitter at TailgaterSean. You can find us, the show, at TailgatersPod. And where can you listen to us? Where can we find you, Chris?
You can find me at Chris Scout Team on the Twitter machine. You can find us on the Scout Team Radio Network at scoutteamradio.com. And, of course, you can search for Scout Team Radio on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. We're also on the 12-Ounce Sports Radio Network. You can find them at 12ouncesportsradio.com. That's 12OZ, the number 12OZ radio.com. Or just search for 12-Ounce Radio on 12-Ounce Sports Radio on iTunes. Sorry, not iTunes, but TuneIn. Too many apps, man. There's so many different ways to stream sports and us. It's hard to keep track of them all.
Well, it just gives people don't have an excuse not to listen to us. You can find us anywhere. So
yeah. So we started out with a bowl week, and we tweeted out a bowl pick'em challenge. How'd you do?
Not great. I'm solidly bringing up the rear in our bowl challenge. I got 1 out of the 6 correct, but that's just setting up the inevitable Cinderella story as I storm back here, get a bunch more of these right in a row here, go on a little run. But yeah, one for 6 to start, not the best, but we'll see. How about you? How'd you fare this week?
Well, I doubled your score. I got a total of 2 right.
Ooh, high roller.
Yeah, with these early picks, man, it was like no idea between all of these teams. It's kind of like when you're filling out your bracket and you get to those like 10th seed versus the 5th seed and the 7th seed versus the 8th seed kind of thing, and you don't really know anything about those teams. So you're kind of just tossing a coin up in the air with those picks with your March Madness bracket. But right now we got to give a congrats to our friend Jody. She's a friend of the show. And, of course, Podcast BSR, I believe that's going to be Clayton probably, the one that filled it out for them. They both got 5 right, 5 out of 6. They're leading the scoreboard. And, of course, my girlfriend Jen, she's right behind them with 4. But we're still right in there, bud. You said you got 1 right. I got 2 right. We're just, 3 or 4 off of the leaderboard here. So we have some ground that we can make up with the other 50 bowl games that are coming up soon.
Yeah, I think we still got a chance, but yeah, an early game ball to everyone who joined. It'll be fun talking a little smack on Twitter, and yeah, like you said, Jody and Clayton leading the pack right now, so we'll see if that keeps up. I looked at their picks; they got some pretty good picks, so it's exciting, a lot of fun. Get people involved with this.
Yeah, we got a lot of people involved. We're kind of like the old Big Ten. We have 11 teams.
Yeah, with their sweet old logo that had the 11 written inside the Big Ten, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and now they have the 1, right? Because now
it's B1G.
Yeah, they have 14 teams in the Big Ten now. Makes a lot of sense.
That's right.
So let's go over the games. The one that you and I both got right was Troy beating North Texas. It's good to see that North Texas has turned themselves into a bowl-eligible team, but they're still that team where you see North Texas on the schedule and you just automatically pick against them, and that's why I went Troy.
Yeah, I went Troy. I mean, they had an incredible record this year. They were 10-2 going in. They beat LSU at LSU. So I figured if they could compete, in the big leagues with LSU, turned out to be a pretty good team this year. I didn't think North Texas had much of a chance in that game. And like you said, the only one I got right.
Yeah, I'm looking at North Texas right now. They're 9-5. That's a respectable finish. I remember North Texas being kind of that doormat over the last few years with the 2-win seasons and stuff. Obviously, I don't follow them, but yeah, Troy was just too much for them to handle. And we both got that one right, so kudos to you and me.
Yeah, hats off to us.
And then it was kind of downhill from there for both of us. Western Kentucky versus Georgia State. This is the Auto Nation Cure Bowl. It is the first bowl game out of 3 in the City Beautiful, my hometown, the Orlando Citrus Bowl. Although I guess we're not allowed to call it the Citrus Bowl anymore because Camping World Stadium or Camping World decided to buy out those rights. I went with my heart on this one. I went with Western Kentucky because Steve Spurrier Jr. is their offensive coordinator, but I should have gone Georgia State. They had the better record coming in. Oh, I guess they were both 6-6. Or sorry, one was 6-6, the other one was 6-5. Georgia State wins solidly, 27-17.
Yeah, I also took Georgia State, which in hindsight was a total mistake. Western Kentucky not only lost to Vanderbilt this year, but they also lost to my Illini, a game I was at, which should have been seared into my brain that there's no chance they win a bowl game if you lose to Illinois. It's kind of like my quarterback theory. We've talked about it before. If you lose to Illinois in college, you suck and you're not going to be a good pro. Just ask RG3 in the Texas Bowl. Ask Brock Osweiler. There's a long laundry list of quarterbacks who lose to Illinois. And Western Kentucky, they lost to Illinois early this year. Should have known they didn't stand a chance in their bowl game.
Yeah, I should have went with your gut on that one and your previous knowledge.
Also, hats off Georgia State. It's their first ever bowl win for that school.
Yeah, they just came into the FBS about 2 or 3 years ago, did they not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a revolving door as far as teams getting into to FBS, and we continue to grow. We continue to grow Division 1 FBS, but we don't grow the playoffs at all. But that's a discussion for another day. We are Marshall. They beat Colorado State 31-28, a very close barn burner. I went back and forth with my pick on this one and decided to go with Colorado State. But Marshall, too much to handle. They were up 31-14. Colorado State tried to come back in the fourth quarter, putting up 14 points, but weren't able to do it.
Yeah, I think I also took Colorado State, and I still think they're the better team. Marshall, this game had a lot of big plays. Marshall had touchdowns of 76, 68, and 90 yards. So it's not like they outplayed Colorado State the entire game. They hit some home runs, which definitely helped them. It kind of... I didn't think Marshall was any good since they were carrying Byron Leftwich down the field with that broken leg, but big win for them, big win for McConaughey, I guess. He is Marshall. And yeah, that's just another in the long list of games I got wrong this week.
Add Middle Tennessee and Arkansas State to our list of teams we got wrong. Once again, Middle Tennessee State went up big early, and Arkansas State tried to come back with a 13-7 fourth quarter, falling short of a 35-30 score in the Raymond Media Camellia Bowl. That's a mouthful right there. Or sorry, not the Raymond, but the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl.
Yeah. This was a sloppy game. I only caught a little bit of this game, but I mean, Stockshill for Middle Tennessee. And have they dropped the state? Because everyone calls them Middle Tennessee, but I always remember them as being Middle Tennessee State. But regardless, he had 3 picks in that game. It was sloppy on all sides. There were defensive scores. Middle Tennessee, I think they returned a fumble in this game for a touchdown. High scoring, so that was fun at least. But yeah, another one.
I think there was like a move
for me.
Yeah, I think there was a movement in the state of Tennessee to get rid of the state titles in their colleges because Memphis State went to just straight Memphis, and Middle Tennessee State, I guess, is now just Middle Tennessee. That's about all we got on that game. It's really hard to break down these games. Me and you were talking over the show notes about these games and what to say, and I gotta hand it to ESPN guys. Maybe they got other people writing stuff for them, but the fact they're able to come up with stuff to talk about, nothing against these schools or anything. It's just we don't follow these teams, and I was working Saturday, so I missed a lot of these games anyway. So
yeah, it's tough. A lot of these games, like you said, some of these teams aren't even evenly matched. Like we have games coming up this week with the the Boca Raton Bowl, where Florida Atlantic is a 22-point favorite. So how many people are going to go watch this game to watch Florida Atlantic play Akron? It's not like they have giant fan bases with huge numbers that are going to tune in. Is that going to be a game that's any fun to watch? But yeah, somebody watches them. I try to catch as much as I can of these. But yeah, Middle Tennessee versus Arkansas State didn't really get it going for me.
Yeah, I think Lane Kiffin's going to be the only reason to watch. And I tweeted out this week, why is there not a reality show about Lane Kiffin called Life in the Fast Lane? Why is this not a thing?
It's a total missed opportunity. But I think Lane Kiffin coaching a game is like less of a reason to watch. I'm more interested in him on Twitter than on the sideline.
That is very true. All right, so there was a game that did happen that I was really intrigued with, and it felt more like a January 1st bowl game than a December 16th bowl game, and that was Boise State versus Oregon. You talk about teams that are mismatched. It's a shame that you have an 11-3 team playing against a 7-6 team. So you got the number one team from the Mountain West playing what, like the 6th or 7th team in the Pac-12?
Yeah, something along those lines, and that's the power of the Power Five, I guess. But Boise State, we've talked about them in the past, and when they win their big bowl games, how that kind of propels them next year to be a little bit higher in the preseason rankings, which gives them that outside chance at the playoff. Which, again, now they're ranked going to this game at 25. They'll probably move up at the end of the season polls. They'll probably start next year ranked in the 20s, and they'll be able to move up. So UCF is kind of using them as a blueprint, I think. But this game was fun. Boise State got up big early. They attempted their infamous patented Statue of Liberty. It did not work out so well this time. They fumbled it, and it got returned for a touchdown. This is just a crazy game. That touchdown scored by Oregon on the fumble from the Statue of Liberty. They scored two defensive touchdowns in 30 seconds. They followed that up with a 100-yard pick six. So it was a lot of fun. Oregon scored a touchdown late with about a minute left, so that's the game was not as close as the score said. It was 38-28, but really Boise State controlled that entire game.
The other thing I liked about that game was did you see the way they had the wide receivers, 3 of them split out, and they did some sort of 360 jump before the snap, and then they snapped the ball. I don't even know what was going on, but it was typical Boise State hilarity. Did you see that?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know if we call that a pirouette or a sow cow or something, but yeah, the choreography was great, and I like it. Bowl season is the time to have some fun. I mean, these games, as fun as they are, they don't mean a whole lot, so have some fun with it. It's good entertainment. I liked it.
Yeah, and it was good for Boise State to get their 3rd win over Oregon. They're now 3-0 against Oregon, and if you're Boise State, you gotta say, hey, why did Utah and Colorado get an invite and we didn't? We were beating up on one of your quote-unquote top programs. I know Oregon's a little down this year, but over the last 10, 15 years, Oregon's been one of the top programs of the Pac-12, and whether Oregon's up or down, Boise State just beats them when they play them.
Yeah, they got it figured out. Oregon, of course, was going through losing their coach, Willie Taggart, not on the best of terms, it seems like. And they didn't have, like Wisconsin always had, Barry Alvarez to come in from the rafters to interim coach them to a win in their bowl game. So there's a little bit going on there, too. But yeah, Boise State, like you said, 3 in a row against Oregon. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's why I picked Boise State to win. That was my number 2 win on the bowl pick'em game. And I picked them because Boise State is a really solid team, and Oregon was going without a coach. I don't like a headless body trying to win a game. You need the head coach, and they always say if you want to kill a snake, you got to cut off its head. And Oregon was just missing its head guy. Once again, Willie Taggart takes off before he gets a chance to play in a bowl game, and Boise State takes full advantage of it. I do look for both of these programs to continue on an upward trend, though. Like you said, Oregon hired Cristobal, so that seemed to be a good pickup. And we do have some upcoming bowl games this week. Nothing too exciting. We're still 2 weeks away from the New Year's Six bowl games and the playoffs. But hey, let's start getting patriotic with the Armed Forces Bowl. We got San Diego State versus Army. You said that you know a little bit about San Diego State's offense. Is that a high-flying offense, or are they more of like a run-first type offense?
Definitely run first, but that doesn't stop them from being a high-powered offense. They can score a lot of points. Rashad Penny, their running back, felt like he should have been on the stage for the Heisman presentation. He led all of college football in rushing yards this year, over 2,000 rushing yards. But also in this game, you have the guy who finished 5th in rushing yards, and that's Army quarterback Ahmad Bradshaw. So it's going to be a lot of running, hopefully a lot of punting. That'll get my Big Ten juices flowing, a lot of runs and punts. But San Diego State does have the ability to throw the ball, which Army really – I don't know if Army can't throw, but they just don't. But San Diego State can air it out a little bit, so I sided with them. I think San Diego State's going to win. They were a ranked team most of the year. And I think their ability to throw the ball is going to be what separates them in this game.
So are you saying this is going to be a power eye or a Maryland eye versus the wishbone?
Yeah, San Diego State does a little bit more zone running than that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, kind of like a pro style a little bit.
Like we said, it'll be something that to munch on, a little bit of a snack, nothing too exciting. What kind of snack would you say this would be if you were to go to a Christmas party? What would this type of bowl game be? Would this be like chocolate dipped pretzels, or is that too good?
This would be like a vegetable tray, but it's got like a really good dip. So
okay,
like I'm not totally sold on the vegetables, but that dip's pretty good, so I'm definitely going to be checking it out.
So you're going to be checking it out. All right.
Yeah.
Really, the big, main, exciting thing people are looking forward to this week is signing day. And I know recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. Recruiting is very important. I'm not going to sit there and say it's not. But I absolutely hate recruiting news. I hate signing day and how big of a deal it is. I have a list of sporting events like the draft of the NBA and things of that sort, or the lottery pick type deal. Signing day is probably one of the worst sporting events for me because they make such a huge deal about it. And you look at the list, like I love going on Rivals and looking back 5 years at Florida's signing classes and seeing like 10 to 15 people who I have no idea who they are or if they're still on the team. Well, what is your idea? What do you think about signing day, Sean?
I am done with signing day. I hate that they broadcast all these high school kids, put them on TV. Not only like the ticker run at the bottom of like ESPN and all that, but when they actually like live show them, picking a hat or whatever. What sealed it for me was when McDonald's All-American High School Basketball Player of the Year. I know it's the football one coming up, but the basketball one is what really got me. Cliff Alexander. He had his choices down to Illinois and Kansas, and he picked up the Illinois hat, and everyone got excited, and he set it right back down, and he grabbed the Kansas hat. I was done with that point. Getting trolled by a high school kid, it's not worth my time, not worth getting worked up over. So I'm not a big fan of signing day, and I'm really, really not a big fan of this early signing period that they're about to this is the first year of it coming up, in just a couple days here.
Yeah, so December 20th, I believe that's this Wednesday, is the first signing day, and I cannot agree with you more. I hate when they have the hat selections and a kid goes on there and gives like a 15-minute speech as to why he chose this school. It's just, God, I mean, I get it. For some of these guys, it's going to be the only time they have the cameras on them. Because like I said, you look at every single recruiting class your team has, and you'll recognize 10 to 15 people that you don't recognize. Sorry, you won't recognize them. And the hat thing just makes it a whole lot worse. To me, unless you brought in Chris Angel and he's willing to make you disappear and then reappear with like what team you are, I'm not interested. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I think they're going down a slippery slope here with the early signing day. So usually it's the first Wednesday of February, which I know down in the South where you are, that's like a national holiday, right? The signing day.
Yeah, it really is.
There's some pros, but I think the cons definitely outweigh the early signing period. I think it hurts a lot of these late blooming recruits, maybe guys who their junior year they weren't 3, 4, 5-star recruits, but they had a big senior year. They may not be on the radar of teams like Alabama or any of those big-time SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12, any of those schools until later in the year. And again, these big-time programs like the Alabamas of the world, they're busy trying to win their conference, and now they're prepping for a playoff, but they can also do a little recruiting in the meantime. But let's say, a group of 5 school or a smaller school has been recruiting this kid the whole time. They could pressure him to sign right now in the early signing period. And once he signs that national letter of intent, he's stuck unless he wants to sit out a year. So I think it hurts the late blooming recruits, especially with the coaching carousel just winding down right now. How can Willie Taggart go recruit someone right now and say how great a town Tallahassee is and all that when he's been there for a week and a half? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's not fair to a lot of the recruits in general. You have other situations like what if a big-time school like Florida State, what if they're recruiting 2 of the top tight ends in the country? but they only want one of them. And maybe the lower one says he'll sign early on this early signing period. Now a kid who maybe wanted to go there isn't going to go because he was still open in the recruiting process. I just don't like it at all. I know why they're doing it, to get the ticker tape going again and get people watching, but I'm just not a fan at all of this.
Yeah, the alleged reasoning, and I don't buy it at all, because I don't think the NCAA cares two bits about a kid, whether it's a high schooler or an NCAA athlete. But their original theory is, let's get them to sign early so that way they can get it over with. They don't have to worry about being harassed or called a bunch of times. And I think if you don't want them to be harassed or called a bunch of times, then set recruiting limits onto how often you can call a kid. That seems like an easier solution than this early signing period. And I agree with you. Putting it right in the middle of bowl season, or right at the beginning of bowl season, where teams are trying to focus on their bowl preparation and everything else, you have student athletes who are on campus. They're on your team. They've worked hard for you. And you have guys like Willie Taggart and Dan Mullen and name any other coach that has to take off. Or you got Scott Frost, who is trying to do the right thing. He's trying to coach at UCF in the bowl game. But he was at practice earlier this week, and then he got on an airplane, flew out to Fresno, California to go recruit a quarterback for Nebraska, and now he's coming back to Florida to do practice the next day. It's just he's being pulled in all different directions, and the student athletes are the ones who lose out in those situations. So I think if you're going to have an early signing period, you kind of need to do what college basketball does, and they have theirs within the first month of the basketball season. So why don't you just, if you're really serious about, hey, let's get these student athletes or these high school kids to sign early so that way they don't have to worry about stressing out about recruiting, why don't you do it at the beginning of August or at the beginning of September? And this way, for the guys that do want to sign early, they don't have to worry about recruiting during their senior year of high school. They can just focus on their high school football season instead of having to worry about fielding phone calls and having people at their football games and constantly being harassed by the recruiting news sites wanting interviews and everything else. So, but having it on December 20th is like the worst idea, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's definitely not fair to the athletes. A lot of these guys already have verbal commitments, but they haven't signed their national letter of intent. Because once you sign that, I mean, it's pretty much in blood. And it's definitely unfair. Like, schools could view this, if you have a verbal commit from someone and he doesn't sign in the early signing period, these schools are going to reopen their recruiting at that position, and they're probably going to look for somebody else. They may view not signing early as not wanting to sign at all, when this is like a 17-year-old kid trying to make a decision that could impact the rest of his life. He doesn't need to be rushed into something like that. I don't like it, not one bit, but I don't know. The NCAA probably sees some dollar signs in it. They get on TV more.
Yeah, so they'll have 2 signing days. They'll have one this week, and then they'll have one in February for the kids that didn't sign. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Like I said, I hate recruiting news. I kind of don't even want to get on Twitter anymore because it's just flooded with people. Oh, this kid said this after his high school senior game. I think it means that we're going to get him. Or, the Gator quarterback, Matt Corral, the commitment, he flipped over to Ole Miss, and now people are going on and on about how terrible a recruiter Dan Mullen is and how bad of a guy Matt Corral is. Guys, calm down. It's, like you said, it's the most important decision of their life. I don't blame Dan Mullen or Matt Corral for making the decisions that they made. Obviously, neither one of them thought they were a good fit together. So if this kid thinks he's better off at Ole Miss and Dan Mullen thinks he's better off pursuing other quarterbacks, then who do I know? Like, you're not even going to know if that's the right decision by either of these guys until 3 years from now. If Matt Corral goes to Ole Miss and he disappears, and Dan Mullen recruits some other kid who lights it up, nobody's going to care, or vice versa. If Matt Corral lights it up and Dan Mullen doesn't get a quarterback, then that's when you know. But I feel like reacting to recruits right now is a waste of time and kind of childish.
Childish? You don't like seeing grown adults on Twitter like yelling and cursing and saying horrible things at 17-year-old kids?
Yeah, no, I hate it. I think people need to get a life. If that's what you're into, go watch Star Wars. I think people that dress up to go watch Star Wars have more of a life than people who live, breathe, and eat recruiting news. It's ridiculous.
You got to be careful here. You don't want the Star Wars fans coming after you. That's a dangerous group.
I love Star Wars fans. I love Star Wars. I saw the movie. It was great. And then one other person that I wanted to bring up that benefits off of an early signing period is, of course, the old fax machine salesman or the fax machine service guy. Man, college football has to be the only people still using fax machines, are they not?
Yeah, I would have to say so.
I don't know why
ridiculous.
We're still with this antiquated technology to do it.
It's absurd.
Can we not scan things anymore and email them over? I don't understand.
That's probably why Illinois comes in. They're a very technologically advanced school. They got some supercomputer and all that. That's probably why they're 60th in recruiting. They don't have a fax machine anywhere to get any of these commits.
They're sending over maybe that's what happened to that kid that picked Kansas. He tried to send over his LOI and it bounced back. So he's like, I guess I got to pick Kansas.
Yeah, Bill Self definitely he's a faxer. If anyone in this country is a faxer, it's Bill Self.
Oh, man. All right, well, let's go on to basketball. My Gators lose a tough one to Clemson, and I'm still not sure what to make of this Gator team. They're a veteran team, and they shouldn't be losing games like this. They get up big, and then they just let the lead go. I don't know what to make of it, but hats off to Clemson. They're now 9-1 on the season. Maybe we're just losing to teams that are better than we all thought they were going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the top, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the programs like that, with this era of college basketball, with all the one and dones, this talent is spread so wide across the country where there are teams like Clemson who are 9-1 early in the year. There's a lot of talent everywhere, so there's going to be a lot more upsets with how the climate's changed in college basketball. Your Gators lost. My Illini lost a tough one this week, too. They never play well at the United Center up in Chicago, and they lost to a pretty good New Mexico State team. Freshman mistakes all around. Down by 3 with 10 seconds left, and we chuck from half court with about 5 left. That's not how you go about winning a game. But we're looking for some continued growth, because just kind of like the Gators are.
What do you mean, man? Steph Curry does it. I can do it, too.
Yeah, a freshman playing his 10th game ever probably can't.
Yeah. We had that conversation on Scout Team Sports about how I felt Steph Curry was bad for basketball because all these kids are going to start throwing up really bad shots to try to be like Steph Curry, where Steph Curry makes these really bad shot selections and nobody else really can. So, and then
they talked about it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, before we get to Wichita State, they talked about that a lot because the Illinois game, they played at the United Center, which, of course, is where the Bulls play. So they got Jordan's jersey up in the rafters and all that. And the NBA three-point line is painted on that floor. And I would say 75% of the threes taken in this game were behind the NBA line because these kids get so amped up trying to be the pros, trying to be the guys they see on TV. Yeah, maybe it could be a good argument that Steph Curry and all these guys in the flashy NBA here are having a negative influence on the game.
Yep. So you said Washington State loses to Oklahoma.
This
Oklahoma team looks really good. Sorry, Wichita State loses to Oklahoma. Pretty good Oklahoma team this year.
Yeah, one loss for Oklahoma. They go on the road to beat number 3 Wichita State in their own building. Trae Young is the stud freshman guard for Oklahoma. And if you haven't heard his name, you're going to. Right now on the season, he's averaging 29 points and 9 assists per game as a true freshman. This kid is a legit talent, and he's got to be the front runner right now for at least Big 12 Player of the Year. He's just balling out right now. It's incredible to watch. In Wichita State, not an easy place to win. Greg Marshall he always has his team well coached, and to come into their building, even though it only seats about 10,000, that's a loud building and a tough place to play.
Yeah, it's crazy how the state of Kansas is absolutely atrocious outside of Kansas State when it comes to football, but when it comes to basketball, they have some solid teams there. Kansas is always up there. Wichita State is not an easy out for anybody. And Kansas State, they're middle of the road, but yeah, basketball is definitely a much better state for Kansas than it is in football.
Yeah, and if you look at Kansas, the Jayhawk roster, year in and year out, they're littered with Chicago talent. So I'm hoping that'll change in the near future. But Bill Self has always had a big presence in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, what else is there to do in Kansas in the wintertime than to be inside and watch basketball? So these schools,
true.
they love their programs, and that's all they got going on.
That's true, man. All right, so you talked about how there's a lot of talent spread across the nation, and there's a lot of teams that are equal to each other. But you sent me a text message or a picture message of a score that showed anything but these two teams being equals. Northwestern versus, who was it? Chicago something?
Chicago State.
Chicago State. It was, what was the score? Like 55-8 at halftime?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Somewhere in the 50s to 8 at halftime of that game. Chicago's not a state. Is kind of all I can say about that. Yeah. Northwestern, they've been up and down, but they're a pretty good team, but man, that's bad to only get 8 points in a half of a game.
I don't even understand how this happens in basketball. Like, you get the ball every time the other team scores. You should be able to go down and make more than 4 baskets before the other team makes 10 or 20 or 30.
Or draw a foul now and then.
55. Yeah, draw a foul. Man, find an open man, make a shot. How do you only make 4 shots? That makes no sense. But what was the final score on that game? Do you know?
It was like 90-something to 30-something. The biggest win in Northwestern program history. The biggest score differential they've ever had. But at least they got like 20 points in the second half for Chicago State.
Well, at least they got their offense going.
Yeah.
I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But man alive, 55-8. You sometimes see that in women's basketball, but never in men's basketball do you see a score that is that lopsided.
Yeah, those powerhouse UConn or Stanford teams, they can pull something like that off. But yeah, there's so much talent spread evenly in men's basketball that you don't ever see that.
Yeah. You got any other basketball news, man? This is sort of a short show this week because there's not much going on in college sports right now. We're all into finals and everything. Bowl games haven't really kicked off yet. Basketball seasons, I mean, it's there, but nobody really likes getting into college basketball until January, February.
Yeah, college basketball, kind of a chalk week. Notre Dame did lose to Indiana, which I love that Notre Dame lost. I hate that it was to Indiana. Indiana might be the only school I hate more than Notre Dame, but one of them had to lose, so I'm happy Notre Dame lost. Rutgers, you don't hear a lot about them, but they had a big come-from-behind victory. They were down over 15 points to number 15, Seton Hall, and they came back and won that game. They went on a big run at the end. So the Scarlet Knights maybe trying to pull a little bit of their weight for once in the Big Ten.
And that was the Big 10 Minute, brought to you by Sean Bailey. Love it, man. Your Big Ten, they got to represent this bowl season, buddy.
Oh, I hope so. One of these times we're going to get it right. Have to.
I think when I was making my bowl picks, I picked a lot of the Big Ten teams to win, so they better get it. They better get it right. Otherwise, I'm done with the Big Ten for forever, man.
I definitely like the Big Ten in the New Year's Day bowl games. I like them there. The smaller games, they could go either way, but I think the high-profile games are going to show up this year.
Let's hope so. I'm rooting against the SEC most of the way. I did pick Kentucky to win, but I got UCF beating Auburn. I got Oklahoma beating Georgia and Clemson beating Alabama. So, sorry, SEC, I'm kind of going against you, but I've been down on you all year. I'm hoping that I'm right and win this bowl challenge, this bowl pick'em challenge. It'll be bad, Sean, if me and you come in last place in this thing.
That's all we have to do is avoid last to like hold on to any shred of credibility we have. So just anything better than last, and I'll be happy. I am currently tied for last. I didn't say that earlier, so not solely by myself down there at one correct.
But even if we
Misery
do,
loves company.
Even if we do, we can just lie about it. Only 11 people know. Well, actually 9 people outside of us know what our real record is. So we could just lie about it and say we went undefeated the rest of the way.
That's true. Or I could say those picks were ironic.
Getting a little, not Mariah Carey, Alanis Morissette on me there?
That's right. It's a little ironic, don't you think?
All right, man. You got any game balls? Or did you already give out your game ball earlier today? Earlier in the
I
day?
gave out my game ball earlier. Yeah, it's to everyone who joined the Bowl Mania Challenge. It's going to be a lot of fun the rest of the way. And like we said, Jody and Clayton are our co-leaders currently. So they're leading the pack right now with 5 wins each.
All right, my game ball goes to Florida Gator head coach, volleyball head coach, Mary Weiss. My Gators fell very short against your Nebraska Cornhuskers in the national championship last night. It was very heartbreaking to watch. Mary Weiss has been trying for a very long time to win a national title. She comes up short, and I didn't know this, and it's kind of sad to say, but if she would have won last night, she would have been the first female coach in female volleyball history to win a national title. That's kind of crazy to think that there's not more female coaches involved in female volleyball for college. But Nebraska gets the win. My hat's off to them. I'll give them a game ball as well. They're your national titles. But Florida plays in their 5th national championship this year. They've won 3. They fell short in 2. So Mary Weiss, hopefully next year, you'll finally get over that hump and win that national title.
I like it. That was a fun. I did watch a little bit of that, the volleyball national championships. You got to support the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten had like 5 or 4 out of the Elite 8 teams. We're always very good at the non-revenue sports, but yeah, the Gators, man, everything you. They win all the championships, huh?
That's what we are, man. We're everything you, but we didn't win the volleyball one. I was really wanting that 4th national title to wrap up 2017. So hopefully 2018 we'll win another baseball. Maybe if this basketball team can get turned around, we can win one there. And, I'm always looking for that football national title. Doubt it's going to come next year, but there's hope in Gainesville now.
All right, you're on your way.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that signing day goes, and I'll know. When you win signing day, you clearly win the national championship there.
Yeah, there's no flaw in that logic at all.
None whatsoever. All right, well, that's our show, man. Go Gators.
Go Illini.
See ya.
Later.